Hello everyone, it's Safa. So today I am laying on the ground as usual. I want to talk about how manifestation works today because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. A lot. And this goes for, in terms of all of the practices that we use for divination, like tarot and astrology and whatever else you can think of. This includes our emotions. This includes our affirmations, our conscious intentions. This includes the stimuli and the factor of triggers in our reality, which I actually just did a video about. So, where does manifestation start? I think that's the most important thing to acknowledge, is that being that the universe is infinite, everything that can exist in the entirety and totality of things does exist. And what is happening in terms of existence and how that exists is it exists on different levels of vibration. Everything just being energy at its core, vibrating on different levels. So what causes our separation is the rate at which we're vibrating. So this vibration is like it is above and below. It's the oscillation of the sine wave, and it's the spiral. It's the Fibonacci spiral. It's the flower of life, and it's all of the geometric patterns. Oh my gosh, there's an ant crawling on my leg and biting me. What does that mean? Gee, I wonder. So, perhaps what this ant is trying to say is that even the smallest things can have a big effect in terms of stimulus and response. And that my choice to lay on the ground was, affected ultimately by this ant. And yes, personal choice and personal will are a huge part of manifestation, but because, the self, the idea of what the self is so changeable, it can kind of, like, there's some gray area, because you could say that the self is made of so many infinitely separate selves. If you count yourself as your human body in this lifetime, then, obviously we are made up of other beings, billions and billions, millions and billions, billion other beings, who may or may not have their own individual consciousness and awareness. I think that they do. I think that the cells in our body have an amount of awareness in a way that we don't necessarily understand, because they function in patterns. And they function, I think, on the same basic principles that we do of cycles, of life cycles. And so I did a video about karmic cycles that talks about, how we're experiencing essentially geometry in this world, how we're experiencing math, and that math is a symbolic language of our existence, of everything we're doing, and that everything is a symbol of everything else. So if you look at math as a symbol, as a way of understanding the physical plane, you can think of the physical plane as a way of understanding the spiritual plane. You can think of everything around you as a language. You can think of everything around you as a way that the spirit world is speaking to you. So the spirit world is speaking to you through signs that appear in your reality, in the physical consciousness. And the physicality of it doesn't make it dissimilar from a word or from a sound that is made when it is spoken and understood. It's the understanding part that runs throughout all of existence. It's that consciousness that we all belong to, that we're all separated from and yet connected to at the same time. And what we're doing when we do spiritual exercises and meditations and things like that is that we're accessing different planes of our consciousness. So the more you practice, obviously, the more you're able to access these planes, because what you're doing is you're going within, which is the same as, ascending, going upward. It's the same as experiencing different planes of existence, because you're doing it using, this computer with all of its programs, and you're running programs, and the universe is the same. It's like one big mind that's running programs infinite types of programs. And what we're doing when we're getting downloads or whatever, it's all metaphor. Everything's metaphorical, everything's symbolic. So, I'm running different programs is just tapping into different vibrations of existence. And so this gets into the astrology and tarot aspect of things, is that we essentially have given power through our consciousness to these archetypes in the sky. I want to do a whole video on what I think of as, why astrology is powerful, why astrology works, why it is what it is. And I believe that, we've made these stories about, what could be seen as arbitrary patterns in the sky, but being that the universe is folding in on itself, how do we know that we didn't create those patterns? And so, being that it feeds in on itself, everything that we feed into becomes stronger in this reality. So right now, we're in a reality where the planet Pluto means something to us, and that's the most important part, is the meaning, and it doesn't have anything to do with Pluto's physical gravitational pull on our bodies and the emotions associated with gravity. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has everything to do with the connection of the subconscious mind to the ethers, everything that lies beyond what we're able to actually touch in this reality, which is a reflection of all of that we experience on a subconscious level and a conscious level. Our conscious is our ego. It's how we perceive ourselves. So when you think about the universe as a whole, it is perceiving itself constantly. So it could either experience itself as whole and complete, or it could experience itself as a bunch of separations, and it could feel loneliness. It could even feel loneliness as being only one thing, only one large being, or multiverse. It's still one thing. So its perception of itself defines its experience. So your perception of the things that are manifesting in your reality are what define your emotions, your experience. And so we're constantly having to ask ourselves, why am I perceiving things this way? Why am I experiencing things this way? Because if we're having a certain life experience, the only difference between it being a lonely or a completed and whole experience is how we're looking at it. Easier said than done, because of the associations that exist throughout all of time and space. And time and space being layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers infinitely of timelines that all already exist, which I believe that we're moving through these timelines as a consciousness. So for example, if you get a tarot card in your reading that means a certain thing, or if you have a placement in your chart in astrology that means a certain thing, it has the lowest possible octave in vibration and has the highest. Usually we associate high with being good and low with being bad. So, for example, the archetype of the emperor is either the protective, masculine, on top of things, inner authority, boundaries, stable, safe, with the opposite being unsafe, abusive, controlling, domineering, everything that we associate with, the toxic aspects of masculinity. So, it's all about how you're perceiving what's going on in your life, and it's also all about what you consciously put in to your stores, how you're programming yourself. So, running programs, right? We, I believe that our soul chooses the lives that we live as a way to learn, a way to transcend, or almost like imagine that the earth is the best virtual reality game there is, that your soul is saying, looking at the astrology before you go in, looking at your chart and saying, I think I like this life. I think I want to see what I can do with these archetypes. Excuse me. My nose itches because I've manifested this cold, which I'm still trying to figure out why that is. But yeah, this life experience, having its upsides and its downsides to literally everything, is what I believe the reason why we're here is to be able to shift and have different perspectives. And that's what I feel alchemy is. Alchemy is traveling through a vibration, the same vibration in a different way in order to have a different experience. And when you do that, it shifts you into a literal different timeline, a literal different reality that exists just for you. And it sucks. The main thing that sucks about it is making this video, I'm basically talking to myself, talking to you. I'm basically lifting the collective consciousness, which is actually my consciousness when it comes down to it. Oh God, my poor nose. Yeah, lifting the collective consciousness is the same thing as doing work on yourself. So when you do work on yourself, it inevitably affects the whole, being that we're just all connected. And how these connections happen, are not, I believe, observable. To an extent, they're not. You would have to be on the outside looking in to be able to experience and observe these things, and may not be able to perceive it from within the human body, within the limited context of what tools that we have available. But this limitation, I believe, is chosen to have this experience, and to have an experience of good and bad, so that mainly to experience good, just have that contrast. And so, we're here to have contrast. We're here to have challenges. We are here to learn. We're here to have experiences, infinite experiences, so that the universe can basically be entertained and not feel lonely. But then your soul, your higher self, has a conscious motivation for being here and doing these things. And I think that it is ultimately unconditional love. It is the ability to have the best possible experience of the archetypes involved, and to have a deeper understanding of what an archetype is, even if it's just a subconscious understanding. If you know nothing about astrology or tarot, it's like, okay, now I understand what it means to have Mars in Cancer, when I sit down and have a chat with somebody who has Mars in a different sign, and how they react to my frustration or anger, or how they react to my passion, or how they react to the masculine parts of me, or whatever it is. Like, we're observing these things, and astrology is just one way that we do that. Western astrology, Vedic astrology, Chinese astrology, it's all doing the same thing. It's all serving the same purpose. So there isn't one that's like the best, overarching for everybody. It's like, what kind of experience are you looking to have? Atheists are having an experience where they're manifesting a reality in which they're not manifesting their reality, where it is chaos and it's completely out of their control, because that's what they've set their focus on. They've decided that that's how their life is going to be. So you might experience, when you start doing magic, it's not going to work. But when you keep doing magic, when you keep using your conscious intention to manipulate, to change your subconscious mind, you're going to notice how things manifest in your reality so much quicker. And as you clear your chakras, as you do the emotional work, as you do all the things that I've been talking about with like realizing karmic cycles and looking at the archetypes of your life, and sitting down and figuring out what happened in your past that's affecting your present, then you're going to be manifesting things a lot quicker. And we're all witches, because we're all having rituals, we're all having beliefs, we're all sitting down and doing the same type of things over and over and over again, which continue to manifest in our reality as we are connected to this infinite soup that is just keeps on cooking. So anyways, I'll do another video about this later. But thank you, blessed be, like and subscribe, and ciao for now.